so we could actually start.
Okay, so I think we are ready to go now. Welcome everybody, dear members of the Model European Parliaments. I warmly welcome you to the General Assembly of the 53rd International and 2nd Digital Model European Parliament. For your information, the first thing that we're going to start off with is that everybody of you has access to the right resolution booklet. So I kindly ask you to use the one from the channel called General, as there is the updated resolution booklet with all the textual changes that have been handed in on time. We're going to start with the Committee on Women's Rights and Gender Equality, also known as the FEM Committee. Then we're going to move on to the Committee on Security and Defense, also known as AFET or SEDE. And after a 20-minute break, we're going to move on to the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs, also known as the EMPL Committee. And last but not least for today, we're going to have the Committee on Human Rights, also known as DROI. Now, I kindly ask President Fiona Schindel to come forward and give a speech.
Thank you, Alexander. Honorable Presidency, Excellencies, distinguished guests, members of the Model European Parliament. I'm thrilled to be speaking to you today, to be reaching so many of you in so many places all over Europe. It is truly astounding that it is possible, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And I hope all of you are too. A little over 3 years ago, I attended my very first MEP session in Berlin, Germany. Needless to say, I was a little intimidated, overwhelmed, or simply put, lost in light of all the new, exciting challenges MEP posed to 15-year-old me. But the well-known MEP spirit inspired, or rather sparked a flame in me that got me through chaotic OC writing, caffeine-driven discussions, and the late-night nitpicking of resolutions. Funnily enough, the latter never stopped. Even as president, I was up until 2 a.m. last night to read and proofread all your resolutions. But 3 years and almost 10 sessions later, that flame still burns. And it is that flame that led me through all of this. And it's also that flame that I hope all of you caught as well. Now we are standing, or rather sitting, in front of the most vital part of any MEP session, the General Assembly. This is the point at which all your hard work from the last weeks, and especially the last 2 days, will pay off. You get to share your ideas, present your solutions, and discuss crucial problems with each other. However, it is important not to let the flame within all of us take over and start a huge fire. I know all too well how frustrating it can be when your hard work isn't acknowledged or understood the way it ought to be. The Model European Parliament, after all, is a small-scale version of real life, coming with its own not-so-small-scale issues. Intolerance, discrimination, and sexism are all too real in every context, even within our MEP bubble. Therefore, dear delegates, it is of utmost importance to use this chance to change the way the things work. While it might only be on a small scale for now, every step towards change and progress is an important one. I urge you, use this possibility to discuss, but do it in a respectful way that can act as a guiding example for the discussions the grown-ups are leading around in the outside world. Let us listen to each other and appreciate the experiences, backgrounds, and knowledge that everyone in this session has to offer. Dear delegates and all members of the Model European Parliament, I wish you all an exceptional General Assembly, and I hope that the MEP flames within all of us can guide us through the following 2 days. And maybe we can even light some new ones along the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this beautiful speech. Now I kindly ask President Clara Gessler to come forward and give her motivational speech. You may have the word.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Fellow presidents, excellencies, honorable committee presidents, delegates, esteemed members of the Model European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. It is my utmost honor and pleasure to be a part of this unique Model European Parliament session. The MEP is the epitome of the EU spirit. The principles of collaboration, inclusion, cultural diversity, and mutual respect have been the cornerstones of the European project since its inception. Its sessions are not exclusively a platform enabling the exchange on issues of both European and regional relevance, but also a celebration embracing our shared European and regional identity. We all are inheritors of this common European legacy, dear delegates. Therefore, amid rising Euroscepticism and several challenges lying ahead, it is our right and responsibility to shape the future vision of our community, aiming for the improvement and endurance of the European project. We need to make our voices heard in order to chart the right path ahead for Europe. As participants of this project, you have all had an essential part to play in seeking solutions today for the concerns of tomorrow. The Model European Parliament offers a podium for structured dialogue among young, bright minds from all over Europe. You have all seized this opportunity by communicating your views, sharing new ideas, and defending what you believe in with conviction and endeavor to compromise. In turbulent, competitive times like these, it is all the more important to remember what makes us exceptional and what sets us apart from the crowd. We all have a commonality of vision. We are all a part of a young European movement with visions and eagerness to realize them, unlike any other. We're given the opportunity to engage with our peers on a professional level to tackle the issues that will one day affect us all as the future of Europe, the future of the world. We all have an impact, a voice, and a chance for change. We're working on real solutions to real issues and providing an impulse to real European Parliament, a concept that never ceases to amaze me. Our European and global team spirit, our voices, and the skills we have acquired cannot be taken away from us, not even by a pandemic. It's not only the many different people with diverse backgrounds and stories we meet and interact with that make us special, but also our shared experiences through the Model European Parliament and the lessons we carry with us as a result. Ladies and gentlemen, engage in this journey, which will undoubtedly broaden your perspective through adventures and a number of new bonds. Today, you have the chance to put your skills and abilities to the test and pitch your shared ideas for a prosperous Europe on a global stage. Now, I will give you a last short explanation of the GA procedure. We will begin with reading out the resolution and the opening speech. Afterwards, we will move on to factual questions, where you can ask for definitions. Then we will have one of you to hold the amendment speech. After the amendment, we will commence with the open debate, where you will be able to ask more complex questions. At the end, we will have the speech against and the closing speech of the committee. We'll finish with the voting. And please remember, the General Assembly does not serve the purpose of tearing down others' resolutions, but rather to ameliorate them. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much. I herewith give the word to President Philipp Markopulos for final technical instructions.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, honorable delegates, and committee presidents, dear participants of the Modern Parliament. I would like to thank you for working so hard to figure out solutions for Europe's most critical problems. It is quite astonishing that you were able to finish resolutions of such high quality in nearly 24 hours. However, before we can start the General Assembly, we will perform a technical check in order to ensure that you do not encounter any technical difficulties during the General Assembly. First of all, we will test the raise hand function on Zoom, which will be necessary for you to ask for the floor during the GA. In order to raise your hand, you have to click on the reactions icon, which will be displayed on the bottom of your screen. Please do so right now and raise your hand. Okay, I'm really glad that that worked out. Were there any technical difficulties regarding the raise hand function? If so, please speak up now.
Yes, for me.
Me too.
What would be your exact problem?
I don't have any, like I have reactions, but only clap hands and show thumbs up, but not show your hand.
Yeah, same for me.
Did you install the latest version of Zoom on your computer?
I just downloaded it right now, so I guess, but I
Okay,
can.
maybe you can actually use the thumbs up reaction for the first resolution, but afterwards, please install the latest version of Zoom during a break.
Okay,
May I?
thank you.
Great. Okay.
Also,
May I approach the floor?
usually if you're on full screen, turning off the full screen and going to window helps. It might not show on the full screen mode.
Excuse the interruption, Mr. President, but on the older version of Zoom, if you would go to participants, then you might be able to see a raise hand function there. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Yes, it should also work. Okay, let's move on to the voting procedure. So in order to vote on the amendments and the resolutions, we are using a polling system by Zoom. I will now display a test poll on your screen, which you should be able to see right now. Just click on any of the two options and submit your vote. Okay, I'm really glad that that worked as well. I will now share the results with you. Great. Were there any problems regarding the voting procedure or seeing the results afterwards? If so, please speak up now.
How will abstaining work, Your Presidency?
There will be an option to abstain for concerning the amendments, concerning the resolution, I'm sorry. And there can also be several options in Zoom. So if you were able to vote right now, it should also work afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I think that actually concludes the technical check, and we will now continue with the FEM committee, I believe.
Thank you very much for the explanation. I hope that everything is clear now, as we're going to move to the first committee, FEM. May I kindly ask the delegate who has been chosen to read out the resolution to come forward to do so?
I've been chosen.
Perfect. You may have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. 1. Funds and supports campaigns to raise awareness about women's rights and gender equality. 2. Reminds EU member states to be egalitarian in their pursuit of law by working more closely with the judiciary body of individual member states. 3. Considers establishing educational campaigns on feminism and women's rights. 4. Calls upon the committee CULT to further integrate feminism and women's rights into the curriculum. 5. Urges the individual member states to view abortion as basic healthcare and to condemn the limitations put on women's bodily autonomy. 6. Calls upon companies to 1. Conduct gender-based research on pharmaceutical products. 2. Design professional equipment to be gender neutral when possible, or provide options for both men and women. 7. Request EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding the professional equipment. 8. Supports actions taken to address gender roles and stereotypes, such as, but not limited to, 1. The creation of mentoring programs to alter societal gender norms in a more gender-neutral direction. 2. Unisex media advertisements. 9. Reminds all member states to to the need for effective government action on a national level in order to close the gender pay gap, granting funding for the companies who provide evidence that employees are paid equally. 10. Requests the EU member states to impose laws allowing for the filing of police reports on sexual harassment and assault on the notion of a lack of consent. 11. Recommends the subsidy of organizations currently working on combating gender inequality and gender stereotypes. 12. Supports the creation of organs that will subsidize movements for gender equality and encourage the wider representation of women in leading roles in the workplace, government, and society as a whole. 13. Recommends member states to implement both maternity and paternity leave with shared benefits and job security upon return. 14. Suggests the implementation of blind screening as to prevent gender-based discrimination during the hiring process. 15. Requests EU member states to 1. Terminate the surplus in pricing for products marketed towards women. 2. Support the investment into programs to aid destitute women. 16. Reminds the EU member states to strengthen their policies on improving their gender equality index rank. 17. Recommends providing education and training on the matter of domestic violence and how to recognize it for 1. Students, 2. Healthcare professionals, 3. Public and social workers. 18. Further recommends the EU member states to review their pension indemnities scale so that the gender-based pension gap may be breached. 19. Emphasizes the importance of 1. A current EU statistic on the matter of the gender pension gap. 2. The publication of reports on the gender-based differences in pension within companies. 20. Considers extra financial support and consultation for female pensioners, in particular those that are close to or under the poverty line. 11. Calling upon EU member states to 1. Accommodate the earlier average age of retirement for women. 2. Readjust pensions in proportion to the male pension. 22. Instructs the President to forward the resolution to the European Parliament, the European Commission, and the Council of Ministers.
Thank you very much. Before we move on with the GA procedure, I kindly ask all of the delegates from the FEM committee to raise their hands so President Philipp Markopulos can add you to the spotlight. Thank you. I think everybody should have been added by now. So we can move on with the GA procedure. Whom from the FEM committee may I ask to step forwards and deliver the opening speech? Bulgaria, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the given floor. However, the opening speech isn't mine. I just had to lower my hand.
Oh, I can see. Austria, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I wanted to ask, would it be better to turn off my background, my screen for the duration of the speech?
I think it's better if you just leave it on. It's okay.
Okay. So once again, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable presidents, dear delegates. The 18th century writer and women's rights activist Mary Wollstonecraft once said, "I don't wish women to have power over men, but over themselves." And I am here to reaffirm this cornerstone of feminism. The struggle over equality and the aforementioned power has been going on for many centuries, and we, as a society, have undoubtedly made significant progress. However, one just has to turn on the news in order to see that there is still a long, tumultuous path ahead of us. The question at hand is that of gender inequality across Europe, specifically the gender pay and pension gap. While the EU has a plethora of laws that are supposed to protect women against discrimination, few actually get implemented. So, ladies and gentlemen, how can we reduce the gender pay and pension gap if different social norms gender norms and restrictions keep on applying to women across the continent. If we fail to change the current situation, we will not only deprive around half of the EU's population of jobs, business opportunities, and secure pensions, but we, in fact, find ourselves contributing to dangerous gender stereotypes that not only harm women, but also men. I think it goes without saying that men's struggles go hand in hand with women's. So the combat against gender stereotypes should be a priority for every human being. The following resolution from the Women's Rights and Gender Equality Committee addresses the obstacles that women face every day in the economic, societal, and domestic fields and proposes possible solutions. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you very much. We now move on to short factual questions, which already have been explained by President Clara Gessler. Factual questions only regard either definitions or examples of certain terms used in the resolution. I kindly ask Vice President Julius Lang to share his screen with the resolution again. Thank you very much. So any factual questions regarding the resolution? The Polish delegates from the DEWE committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I have a question regarding what the term destitute women means.
Whom from the FEM committee may I ask to respond? Germany, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Destitute women is supposed to mean women who are financially unstable and do not have the means to support themselves accordingly.
Poland, has your question been answered?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, it has. Thank you to the delegate of Germany.
The Bulgarian delegate from the Econ committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would just like to ask the FEM committee about what they understand by gender equality, because when it comes to the understanding of equality, it can be quite complicated, because there's a difference between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. And I would like to ask, once again, the basic philosophy behind the FEM committee resolution. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
May I ask the delegates, are you asking for a definition only? Because you also mentioned the word philosophy.
I'm talking about what they understand by gender equality.
Please address the presidency and then you may speak.
Excuse me for my manners, Mr. President. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I ask what the committee understands by the word gender equality.
Okay. Belgium, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The Belgian delegate wonders what exactly is meant by EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding the professional equipment.
You're asking a question. Now is the time to answer the question of how the FEM committee defines gender equality. Whom from the FEM committee may ask to define gender equality? Cyprus, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. In the context of gender equality means that men and women must have and ensure in all areas to have in employment, work, and pay in order to have equal, to be equal in all of these areas.
Has the question from the delegate been answered?
Yes, it has been answered.
Perfect. So we move on to other factual questions. The Irish delegate from the DROI committee, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I'd like to ask what is meant by professional equipment. So could they clarify it, please?
Germany, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Professional equipment refers to equipment worn by certain groups of professionals, such as, for example, bulletproof vests for police officers.
Has the question from the delegate been answered sufficiently?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. We're going to allow one more factual question. The Dutch delegate from the Inter Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I'd like the committee FEM to explain what they mean in OC6 by clause 1, gender balanced research, what that means.
May I ask the French delegate from the FEM committee to answer?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. What we wanted to point out in this OC was that men and women should be tested, and not only men, so that secondary effects would be equal for men and women.
May I ask another delegate from the FEM committee to complement the answer from the French delegate? Denmark, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. We see that testing of medicine and other pharmaceutical products are mainly tested on males. So medicines byproducts can be have worse effects on women. And this we want to change. So conduct a gender balanced research means that we would also take into account female anatomy when producing pharmaceutical products. Thank you.
Has a question from the delegate been answered sufficiently?
Yes, Mr. President.
Perfect. In this case, we are going to move on to the amendments. The presidency decided to accept the amendment proposed by the Dutch delegate from the Inter Committee concerning clause number 4. The proposal is to substitute the clause by a new clause which reads as follows. Requests EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding professional equipment, for example, safety vests, in male-dominated professions, such as but not limited to the army and the police force. I repeat, requests EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding professional equipment, for example, safety vests, in male-dominated professions, such as but not limited to the army and the police force.
Mr. President, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think that my amendment was made on the resolutions that were sent before, and it actually is for clause 7. It has been moved down.
It is interesting because I looked at the amendment and it says it's concerning clause number 4.
Yes, because I probably submitted with the old version instead of the new version. My apologies.
So it is concerning clause number 7.
Yes.
Okay, once more to make it clear for everybody, it is concerning clause number 7. And the idea is to substitute the clause by a new clause which reads as follows. Request EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding professional equipment, for example, safety vests, in male-dominated professions, such as but not limited to the army and the police force. The proposal is to substitute clause number 7, not clause number 4. May I ask the delegates who propose this amendment to come forwards and deliver the speech in favor of the amendment?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you for the floor. I'd like to state that Honorable Presidency, dear committee presidents, fellow delegates and dear guests. The committee FEM has written a resolution that seeks to combat the gender inequality in the workplace and come up with ways on how the EU can take more radical actions to close the pay and pension gap of Europe's labor force. Even though the resolution contains a number of vote-worthy solutions, OC7 was not one of them. As it states in the original resolution, at this moment, it has no ties to the problems the committee seeks to tackle. Therefore, my proposal to the committee FEM is to substitute clause 4 with the following. Request EU-wide safety guidelines and regulations regarding professional equipment, for example, safety vests in male-dominated professions, such as, but not limited to, the army and the police force. I think substituting the current clause with the version I am proposing will only strengthen the resolution of the committee FEM and ensure that the EU gets a step closer to gender equality. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you. I have one question because now in the speech you said that it is concerning clause number 4.
I
Please,
said
can
clause
you-
number 7.
Clause number 7. You're 100% sure?
Yes,
Okay,
that's what
it is concerning
yeah.
clause number 7. Whom from the FEM committee may I ask to come forward and give the speech against the amendment? Denmark, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Dear Presidency, distinguished guests and other delegates, I would like to emphasize that this amendment only limits our possibilities. So here we see not only in male-dominated fields that this is an issue. For example, PE masks are made for bigger faces in men. We also see CPR mannequins are only made for male bodies. So doing this and only making it in male-dominated fields would be a burden for all women. For example, in nail salons where they have to wear masks and so on, this would only limit rights of women in more female-focused areas of employment. So this amendment would not make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to put it to a vote. President Philipp Markopulos is going to use the voting program again, so all the delegates can either vote in favor or against this amendment.
And CPs, please remember that only delegates are supposed to vote on this poll right now. Were there any technical difficulties regarding the voting procedure?
Yes, Mr. President. I did not receive the voting window.
Okay, is this Cyprus in code?
Yes.
Yeah, I will note that down. And would you vote in favor or against the resolution?
In favor.
Favor, okay. Okay, were there any other technical difficulties? Okay, I take this as a no. That will share the results with you right now.
With 50% in favor and 50% against, this amendment has not passed. We are now going to move on to the open debates. Now all types of questions are allowed regarding the OCs of this resolution. It doesn't have to concern any examples or definitions. It can also be a discussion, explanations, and justifications. The Polish delegate from the Libe Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, I have a question regarding OC number 5.2. So what? No, I'm sorry, that's not 5.2. It's 8.2. I'm sorry. What do you exactly mean with unisex media advertisement? Because I can hardly imagine something regarding your OC. So could you please specify it? Yeah, regarding your OC.
Belgium, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. These unisex media advertisements would encourage women to go in the same field as men, and of course the other way around as well. So if I could give an example, if you see an advertisement about engineering, not only women should be in it, but men should be, not only men should be in it, but women should be in it too, so that it supports both genders in the career or the product marketed.
Poland, has your question been answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions regarding OC number 8? I repeat, are there any more questions regarding OC number 8 and OC number 8 only? The Irish delegate from the Inter Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would like to ask if the committee wants the European Union to create new unisex media advertisements themselves, or is it more like a statement in order to support unisex media advertisements by private companies? Yeah.
Bulgaria, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the given floor, Mr. President. To answer that question, no.
Please address the presidency correctly. It is thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Excuse me, I think I just said that, but I'm sorry.
Thank you for the given floor. If you get the addressing rights, then I don't have to interrupt you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for the given floor, Mr. President. In order to answer that question, no, we don't want the European Parliament to form this. We just appeal for companies to advertise their workplaces to both men and women in an equal proportion. Thank you for the given word.
Has the question from the delegate been answered sufficiently?
I would like to have a follow-up if that's possible, Mr. President.
You may phrase a follow-up question.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So how do you then want to actually support these unisex media advertisements? Do you propose any incentives or any other benefits if companies choose to impose these new unisex media advertisements?
Bulgaria, you may respond.
Excuse me, can the delegate please repeat, because I didn't hear his question because of technical difficulties?
May I ask the delegates to rephrase his question?
For the floor, Mr. President, I wanted to know if the committee wants to actually create any incentives or any benefits for companies who decide to produce new unisex media advertisements.
Bulgaria, do you understand the question now?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the floor. Yes, we.
I'm sorry, but please address the presidency correctly. It is thank you for the floor, Madam or Mr. President.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Perfect.
Yes, we do want to make companies to give companies some benefits if they advertise if they advertise their workplaces equally to both males and females. However, this hasn't been addressed in our point because we don't think it is so important.
I hope that the question from the delegate has been answered. In case that it hasn't been answered, we need to move on as we don't have that much time. Any more questions regarding the entire resolution, not only OC number 8, but also the other ones? The Cyprus delegate from the Econ Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I have a question concerning OC number 9, so directly underneath. You say you would grant funding for the companies who provide evidence that employees are paid equally. My question is, how are you planning to check the evidence that every single company in the European Union would submit? To me, it seems like this is a task that is almost impossible, as companies will try to hide that they are not paying their workers equally within their submissions. And in order to find that, you would need a huge organization, which would need in turn a lot of funding.
May I ask somebody else than Germany and Belgium from the FEM committee to respond? Denmark, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Firstly, I would like to say that the Model European Parliament works with an endless budget, Secondly, it also says that we would like member states to start on a national level in order to close the gender pay gap. So it wouldn't be the European Union, but in smaller doses, with the member states being responsible for this. And then we would probably give it a lot of funding, because we believe, as the FEM committee, that the gender pay gap is one of the most important issues today. Thank you.
Cyprus, has your question been answered?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Well, I guess that's the best answer I'm going to get. Although I do believe that just hiding behind unlimited funding in this case is not the right move.
In case that you're not phrasing a question, I please ask you to mute yourself. Are there any more questions regarding OC number 9 and OC number 9 only? The Irish delegate from the Libe Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. My question concerns the expression employees are paid equally. Do you mean paid equally for doing the same work? Are you then specifically concerning working hours or tasks that a person does, or is just everyone paid the same? Can you please define that more precisely? Thank you.
Before I'm going to give the floor to one of the delegates from the FEM committee, I would kindly ask France and Hungary and Serbia from the FEM committee to also participate in the General Assembly. Speaking of this, France, you may have the word.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, we would like men and women being paid equally for doing the same job. That seems really important in terms of recognition of work.
Has the question of the delegate been answered sufficiently?
No, Mr. President, if I may, I would like to rephrase it.
You may phrase a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. President. When saying for doing the same job, do you mean having the same qualification or doing the same job that is called the same? What exactly do you mean? Do you mean working same hours? Please, again, define that a little more specific.
May I ask Hungary to respond?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Here the FEM committee means working on the same level or nearly the same level with the same qualifications, and also the hourly time worked at the workplace to be considered.
We're now going to move on to another OC. Any questions regarding the resolution, except for OCs number 8 and 9, as these have already been discussed? The Latvian delegate from the DEVE committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I have a question regarding clause number 20, regarding individuals close to or under the poverty line. I don't understand why only female pensioners are supposed to get extra financial support if the individuals are close or under the poverty line. Thank you.
Austria, you may have the word.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. As the FEM committee that specializes in females issues, we thought it was important to bring to your attention that female pensioners get a much less pension than their male counterparts. The gender pension gap is even larger than the gender pay gap, and the question of helping all pensioners close to the poverty line would be something that we could address to the Econ committee. We, however, deal with the consequences of gender-based injustices.
Has a question from the delegate been answered sufficiently?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Somewhat, however, in that case, I think, shouldn't we consider that the
Would you like to phrase a follow-up question?
Sorry, I apologize. Yes, may I please read the
You may have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Therefore, wouldn't we have to consider that the female pensioners would have worked the same amount as the male counterpart? And therefore, why would they receive extra financial support?
May I ask Finland to respond?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The issue is that women are not given the same pensions as men, and that there is an inequality that exists there. And the FEM committee is trying to address that inequality specifically. While it is, of course, a problem that there are pensioners near the poverty line at all, the FEM committee's specific focus is the inequality that exists between male pensioners and female pensioners for the same work done.
Are there any more questions regarding OC number 20 and OC number 20 only? The Bulgarian delegate from the Ample Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. My question would be, in the beginning, in your opening speech, I heard you talking about equality. Don't you believe that, aren't you concerned that if you would put only females' needs in front of men's, that this would fail your final goal? Thank you.
I kindly ask the delegate to rephrase the question.
Thank you for the floor. My point was that, Mr. President, I'm sorry, I didn't get my question. Wouldn't it be unfair that only women would receive pensioners, in particular those that are close to under the poverty line?
Austria, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. We as the FEM committee believe that it is better to raise one gender's level rather than to lower the others. So we believe that it would be more logical to subsidize female pensioners that did not get the same financial opportunities as their male counterparts. And we do not believe that this causes gender inequality in itself. We believe that while it is very important to take care of pensioners in general who are close or under the poverty line, that would be an issue for a different committee. We focus on issues that have to do with gender inequality.
Has the question from the delegate been answered sufficiently?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. It has been answered. Thank you.
May I ask all the delegates to please wear their jackets? I know this is a bit out of context, but I've just been asked to tell this to you. Moving back to the resolution itself, we're going to allow one more question regarding any of the OCs of the resolution, except for OC 8, 9, and 20. The Irish delegate from the DEVE committee, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I have a question concerning OC3. I wanted to ask why you focused on feminism and women's rights in the educational program and didn't include other things like domestic violence and how to recognize it. I know that you target this issue in OC 17, but there you only have a limited target group and don't address all the people. And I wondered why you didn't include that there. Thank you.
May I kindly ask the Serbian delegate to respond? Otherwise, I need to choose another delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Our main point with this OC was to actually promote and get rid of the problem in its root, and that is to teach young children the importance of equality and the importance of feminism. so that we later on do not even have to talk about other problems since they would not be existing.
Has the question from the delegate been answered?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, it has.
Perfect. In this case, we're going to move on to the speech against the resolution. Whom from the General Assembly may I ask to come forward and deliver this speech? The Italian delegate from the DEVA committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable Presidency, distinguished members of the Model European Parliament, and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking for the DEVA committee and for the Italian delegation must vote. Since the outbreak of the pandemic of COVID-19, in Italy, many women have lost their job, in particular in small and medium enterprises, the so-called SMEs. Moreover, the gender pay gap in Italy is about 18% between male and female. And I'm sure Italy is not a single case in the whole European Union. And survey and latest statistics fully support what I'm saying. The outbreak of the pandemic has brought new inequalities and has increased the already existing ones. If we continue to propose a program that lacks innovation and new solutions for old issues, how can we really exchange the existing situation? Why haven't you considered small, medium enterprises, and also haven't you linked your solutions to the constantly evolving situation because of the health crisis? A new enemy has brought new issues, and we are all called to face them strongly. Reminding all of you that union is a word, but it has 1,000 meanings, and we are all called to make a change and work on new solutions. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Whom from the FEM committee may I ask to come forward and deliver the speech in favor of the resolution, also known as the closing speech? Germany, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable Presidency, esteemed CPs and teachers, dear delegates and guests. Malala Yousafzai once said, "We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back." And today, with our resolution, we take a step towards ensuring that this will not continue to be the case much longer. The Italian delegate has touched on a very sensitive point of issue. Women losing their jobs because of crises is a problem to be considered, but we do consider this in our resolution. Maybe not directly by the example of the corona pandemic, but through different measures implemented, such as blind screening, we ensure that women may not be disadvantaged in the hiring process and therefore afterwards cannot be disadvantaged through issues like stereotyping when it comes to losing their jobs. We tackle the issue of stereotyping in many OCs. We want to, for example, establish unisex media campaigns and educating people on how to combat those stereotypes. So I do believe that in our resolution, we do have OCs that do address the problems called upon by the Italian delegate. To find new innovative solutions is of course our goal. However, we may not go too radically about this, since creating equality between men and women is a slow process that we have to tackle step by step. So I call upon all of you to consider voting for our resolution, since by voting against it, you do not consider that doing nothing is worse than doing something. We have issues with maternity and paternity leave, stereotyping of women, and the discrimination of women during the hiring process that we all address in our resolution. I do not believe that by only focusing on the current situation of the corona pandemic in Italy, for example, we can truly address the immense issue that is the gender inequality between men and women.
Slowly come to an end.
So help us by voting for this resolution to ensure that, as Mary Wollstonecraft clarified centuries ago, that women may finally gain power over themselves again. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
We're now going to move on to clapping is not in order yet, only if the resolution passes. Otherwise, you're not allowed to applaud, I'm afraid. We're now going to move on to the voting procedure, which might allow you to clap afterwards. If I may ask President Philipp to start the voting procedure again. And I want to remind the CPs again that they are not allowed to vote in this program, as they're going to have a separated vote in the WhatsApp group.
Was everyone able to vote this time?
If there were any technical difficulties regarding the voting procedure, please speak now.
I take this as a no, and I will share the results with you right now.
With 51% in favor, 37% against, and 12% abstention, this resolution has passed. Clapping is in order. May I ask how the CPs have voted on the resolution?
May I? Thank you.
You may have the floor.
President Alex. The CPs have voted against this resolution. Thank you.
Okay. The resolution has still passed, as the delegates are the only ones actually deciding when it comes to the voting procedure. Anyways, we're now going to move on to the second committee, which is going to be chaired by President Philipp Markopulos. Mr. President, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to the Committee on Security and Defense, AFET, I believe. Since there were no textual changes made by the committee to their resolution, who may I ask to read out the resolution? And may I also ask Vice President Julius Lang to share his screen? Thank you. United Kingdom, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So, we decided on 1. Requests an added safeguard subordinated to the IAEA concerning the declaration of nuclear enrichment and nuclear materials transferred through biannual data publications. 2. Emphasizes the importance of countries complying to the treaty signed. 1. Violation of which would result in economic sanctions on such countries, and 2. Compliance would be rewarded with economic incentives. 3. Further demands protection for countries participating in the biannual data reports and fining countries publishing misleading data. 4. Recommends more cooperation between UN and EU on disarmament, such as, but not limited to, 1. Calls upon countries to sign the TPNW. 2. Encourages the prohibition of the hair trigger alert. And 3. Encourages the implementation of the No First Use Pledge. 5. Encourages an international and neutral pool of experts to define and clarify the difference between peaceful and harmful use of nuclear material and hand it to the IAEA. 6. Encourages international cooperation between and exchange of both NWS and NNWS on the topic of nuclear disarmament. 7. Supports passing legislation to further limit the stationing of foreign nuclear weaponry on EU territory. 8. proposes increasing funds for research dealing with the safe, secure and accessible disposal of nuclear waste, including nuclear weaponry. 9. Approves of detailed protocol to be followed in the EU in the case of a nuclear disaster. 10. Creates an awareness campaign in order to showcase the dangers of nuclear arms and increase the motivation for nuclear disarmament. 11. Further recommends launching an EU project towards research and development of electromagnetic pulse technology that would be capable of disarming nuclear missiles airborne or directly at launching stations. 12. Encourages research and development to enhance laser defense systems similar to the one used by the German army as a defense measure in collaboration with traditional defense systems. 13. Urges the creation of a fund to rehabilitate the environment after a nuclear attack and investing in new technologies that would make destroyed biohabitats viable again. 14. Suggests the creation of a subordinated agency of the IAEA to monitor research of states concerning the creation and development of weapons of mass destruction. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, United Kingdom. We will now move on to the opening speech. Whom from the committee may I ask to present the opening speech? Lithuania, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable President and fellow delegates. We have gathered to this conference to solve many difficult problems, and I'm sure we all agree that ensuring that nuclear weapons are never used again is one of the key foundations for survival of human race. All our grandparents have witnessed times when nuclear weapons were used to destroy people, and our parents have spent most of their lives living in a world where the use of nuclear weapons was a serious threat. I want to be clear on this. Nuclear weapons are still there, and we must every day keep on ensuring that they will never be used again. We want to have a world where our children don't need to be scared of a nuclear war. For us, this was a difficult topic to tackle on, but we managed to reach a consensus in the committee on what the European Union should do to encourage nuclear disarmament among its member states, its neighbors, and partners in the world. The most important starting point is that all countries will start obeying obligations in international treaties which are already there. For example, with great grief, we saw only 3 days ago that the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, declared that they would start increasing their nuclear warhead capacity, ending 30 years of gradual disarmament since the collapse of the Soviet Union. It is also important to increase cooperation with the United Nations on disarmament. We are calling countries to sign the first legally binding international agreement that will comprehensively prohibit all nuclear weapons. In addition, we consider it is important to prohibit the possibility to rapidly respond with nuclear weapons. Furthermore, it is important that all countries agree and implement an obligation that they will not use nuclear weapons first. There is something we can also do inside the European Union. It is important to pass legislation that limits the stationing of foreign nuclear weaponry on EU territory. We also consider that it is important to ensure that there is a safe and secure way of disposing nuclear waste, including nuclear weapons. I want to again thank my fellow delegates in my committee for drafting this resolution that I personally find to be of utmost importance for the globe. And therefore, I'm asking all of you, dear delegates, to join us to help make the world nuclear arms free for the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lithuania. We will now have time for some factual questions. Please remember that these are only questions regarding a definition. Are there any factual questions concerning the resolution of AFET? If so, please raise your hand now. Germany from Ample, if you recognize.
Thank you very much for the floor, Mr. President. I would like a definition of the acronyms NWS and NNWS in OC6.
Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Spain, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. These words make reference to NWS is nuclear weapon state and NWS is non-nuclear weapon state. Thank you very much for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, Spain. Are there any other factual questions regarding the resolution? Cyprus from Econ, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. In OC number 4, what do the acronyms TP and W? What does the acronym TP and W stand for?
Poland, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. TPNW stands for Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And as the name suggests, that treaty prohibits all nuclear weapons. And if nuclear weapon states want to join, they have to dispose of their nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Are there any other factual questions for the General Assembly? Ireland from Inter, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would like to ask what the hair trigger alert is and what it does in OC4.
Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to this question? Luxembourg, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. It's a US military policy that enables the rapid launch of a nuclear weapon. So in less than 10 minutes, a nuclear weapon can be launched.
Thank you, Luxembourg. Are there any other factual questions? Bulgaria from NV, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would like a further explanation on OC11, electromagnetic pulse technology. Please, a further explanation. Thank you so much.
Whom from the committee may I ask to define electromagnetic pulse technology? Malta, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So electromagnetic pulse technology would be a defense system that would stop all nuclear weapons from entering and obviously hitting our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Malta. Are there any other factual questions for the GA? Belgium from Empel, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The Belgian delegate would like some would like that the Commission explains what type of a detailed protocol you are talking about. Is it similar to the DEFCON codes, or what are we talking about? Thank you very much.
Your factual question is concerning which OC?
OC9. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, Belgium. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? United Kingdom, you can recognize.
The protocol, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The protocol would refer to the strict structure that will be followed by the EU in the case of a nuclear disaster. It would entail things such as the location of bunkers, the exact materials used for protection, you know, the methods of telecommunications, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, United Kingdom. We now have time for one last factual question. Are there any other factual questions for the GA? Latvia from Troy, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. In clause number 9 or OC number 9, I would like the usage of safeguard to be clarified.
Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Italy, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. In the OC number 9, we wanted to approve a protocol that would be useful if a nuclear attack will ever touch the ground of Europe. So we want to protect our ourselves and all our citizens in this case. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, Italy. This concluded the factual questions. We will now move on to the amendment. We decided to choose the amendment of the Polish delegate from LIBE, Aaron Gamweger, which proposes to delete OC 14 as a whole. May I ask the delegate from Poland to elaborate on this proposal?
Yes, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So, Honorable Presidents, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have some serious threats about OC 14 of the AFET-SEDE committee. As you can see in OC 14, the committee proposed the idea of an international organization for implementing a subordinate agency of the IAEA to monitor research of states concerning the creation and development of weapons of mass destruction. Even if the idea of transparency behind the development of mass destruction weapons is not bad, it would simply not work. First of all, it is a great violation of the rights of the individual countries, because everything that is said just implements that the country cannot decide in which way their research goes. And secondly, the committee will simply not be able to monitor all countries and action about the developing of mass destruction weapons around the world. So we can simply not force potential military superpowers like North Korea, China, Russia, for example, to make their military data public, at least for the agency. So even if the idea behind this point, this OC, is very good, it will simply not work. And so I would rather go for deleting this OC. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Are there any questions concerning the amendment of Poland? If so, please raise your hand now. I repeat, are there any questions concerning this amendment? Romania from AFET, you can recognize.
Thank you for the word, Mr. President. I would like to ask the delegate of Poland if he's aware of the fact that monitor research of states concerning it's actually a good thing for our issue.
May I answer?
May I ask the delegate from Poland to answer to this question?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, as I said, it's quite a great opportunity, and it's a good idea. But the OCs have to work, and this idea, even if it's a good idea, simply does not work in the end because of the facts I said. Because of you cannot simply force the countries to publicize their researches.
Thank you, Poland. Are there any other questions concerning this amendment? Latvia from Droy, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I'd like to ask the delegate of Poland if they're aware that there have been investigations upon the usage of chemical weapons in the past, and this could be possibly similar to that, or what do they believe? Thank you.
Thank you, Latvia. May I ask the delegate from Poland to answer this question?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, I do, but I do not know how this question is tied to my amendment. So may I ask the delegate from Droy to rephrase the question, or do you ask me for my opinion about chemical weapons, or I don't know.
Could the delegate from Latvia please elaborate on her question? or rephrase it?
Yes, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I do believe you said that it is practically impossible to basically put this clause in power, but I do believe such issues have been faced in the past and have been addressed. For example, there was an investigation led on the chemical warfare before, so this could be a similarly an investigation, but for nuclear warfare. I don't think that would be too much of an issue.
Could the delegate from Latvia please phrase one precise question?
Do they recognize that such issues have been dealt with before successfully? I don't know how else to phrase it. In that case, I think I shouldn't continue with my question. Doesn't make it clear.
Okay, no problem. May I ask the delegate from Latvia from Digi to ask this question?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I wish to compliment upon my delegate from Latvia who represents Joy. I think what she meant by her question is that the amendment clearly talks about the fact that if we were to monitor further, right, anymore, it would encourage espionage-like behavior or just countries to kind of cover up the things. The thing is, such investigations have occurred in the past overall, and we have monitored other countries, which has proven to cause no issues at all. Therefore, such an amendment will be redundant. Is that clear? Thank you for Mr. President.
May I ask the delegate from Poland to answer this question? Should it be clear?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, but I'm sorry, I did not understand Deve, the man from the Deve committee, because of the technical issue. Maybe you can speak a little bit slower because the connection is not very good, so I do not understand the word, at least, please.
The delegate from Latvia has one last time to rephrase his question. Otherwise, we'll move on now.
Thank you for the floor and patience, Mr. President. The question is simple. In the past, there have been monitoring of nations' nuclear weapons many, many times. No complications have arisen. Therefore, what is the point of this amendment? There won't be any complications if we monitor them again. That's the point. It's been done in the past. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
May I ask the delegate from Poland if the question is clear to him now?
Yes, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, maybe in the past there was some monitoring, but I think nowadays it's even more difficult because every country wants to have its own secret, of course. If there were monitoring, and I'm not sure about this, I'm sorry, I'm not completely informed about this, but if there really were monitoring that are used to do, so this OC will be redundant because there are some researchers and some monitoring, and if there were not monitorings, so it's, yeah, my amendment is completely clear. So I hope this answers the questions from Latvia.
Thank you very much, Poland. We will move on now. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to the amendment of Poland? Spain, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Mr. President, Excellencies, members of the Model European Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We have taken the New START Treaty, which is an agreement between the USA and Russia from 2010, in order to end up the Cold War and reduce the number of nuclear weapons. This treaty implements some monitor research like the one mentioned in the OC number 14. That's why our Commission is not satisfied with only a few words written down with some data. We need to assure what we are doing, to do it for real. This is not a child's play anymore. Moreover, the IAEA, a monitoring subordinated agency, could be strengthened with instruments like the additional protocol. Finally, it is noteworthy that the IAEA has been chosen so that neutrality and universality are assured, which are two of our basic pillars. In sum, It is just for increased control and neutrality. And that's what we want in order to prevent the disarmament in all the countries. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the floor.
Thank you very much, Spain. We will now move on to the voting procedure. I will share the poll with you right now. You have 30 seconds to vote.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Are there any technical difficulties?
Perhaps. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I am part of the APET City Committee, and I'm wondering whether I have been pinned or not.
I have the same issue like her. We are not pinned, so
As there are only 9 places for people to be spotlighted on Zoom, you will be spotlighted when you speak.
Thank you.
So, are there any technical difficulties or problems regarding the voting procedure?
May I?
Austria from FEM, recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I have not received a form yet.
Okay, if that's the case, would you vote in favor or against the resolution?
Against.
Against. I will note that down. Are there any other technical difficulties regarding the poll? Otherwise, I will share the results with you right now. Okay, I take this as a no. So with 41 votes in favor and 67 votes against, this amendment has not passed. We will now move on to the open debate. May I ask Vice President Julius Lang to share his screen? Thank you very much. Are there any questions concerning the resolution of AFET? If so, please raise your hand now. Bulgaria from Econ, you've recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Do you think your resolution is wise in the way that it wants to abolish only the European nuclear arsenal, exposing us to threats like Russia, Iran, and North Korea? If that is the case, I don't think that it is a wise decision to abolish our nuclear arsenal and our point of strength.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Your question is regarding which OC?
The basic underlying of the TPNW. I'm going to want to excuse me for my.
No problem. Could you please tell me if your question is regarding an OC? If so,
it is about the whole resolution and a couple of the points that are about the the tweet about non-nuclear weapon disarmaments.
Your question has to be concerning one specific OC. So if it is not concerning a specific OC right now, we will move on and you may ask your question.
Yes, my point is about number 4, the common small cooperation between the UN. Number I, calling upon more countries to sign TPNW.
Could you please tell us your question or rephrase your question now?
Yes, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I want to excuse myself for the way that I have been sent, but does your resolution want to abolish only the European nuclear arsenal, exposing us to tests like Russia?
Thank you, Bulgaria. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to this question? Luxembourg, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. No, our goal is to abolish all the nuclear weapons, starting with the European countries, but worldwide.
Oh, thank you very much, Luxembourg. Bulgaria, has your question been answered sufficiently?
I want to rephrase the answer because I understand that you want to abolish only our.
You may have a follow-up question now, please.
Okay. Thank you for the floor. Then question: in what way can you ensure safety of the European citizens by only abolishing our nuclear armament and not on the other countries, because we don't think that the EU can disarm other countries like North Korea and Iran and China?
Thank you, Bulgaria. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Malta, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Speaker. So, in a perfect utopia, nuclear technology should never be utilized by the military. To counter this threat, countries seek to fight fire with fire by building arsenals of nuclear weapons as a deterrent. However, you fight fire with water, and instead seeking paths towards mutual destruction, developed countries should focus on building weaponry that tackles the threat without impacting civilians and creates loss of life. For example, EMP technology is not something coming out of the Matrix movie, but a reality that already exists and is part of a number of armies' weaponry arsenal. We should focus on technology that limits damage to the Earth in the event of an international attack. Otherwise, we'll end up fulfilling Albert Einstein's quote: "I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." Therefore, to conclude my point, we have proposed defense systems and other proposals that secure the safety of the European Union whilst protecting all the other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malta. May I remember you that it is thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Are there any other questions regarding OC4 now and OC4 only? Envy, Germany from Envy, you've recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I'm sorry I couldn't lower my hand in the correct time.
No problem. Are there any other questions regarding OC4? If so, please raise your hand now. Belgium from Ample, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The Belgian delegate would like to ask the committee, do they realize that since 1945, the last time a nuclear bomb has been dropped, we have had the longest lasting peace ever? So I ask the committee, why, for God's sake, would we break down the only defense we have to keep out the Russians? It's just like saying that France was to say, we're going to build the Maginot, but no one is going to go through Belgium. And then Germany goes through Belgium and the entire front collapses. That's the entire same thing. Why would you give away such a strategic position? Why? Yes, it is a utopic dream that we live in a world with non-nuclear weapons. That's the same thing with Corona. We also do not want to live in a world with Corona, but we do have to live with it. So why would you say that you want to completely abolish our nuclear armament? Why wouldn't you say, let's just keep some nuclear weapons as a backup? So if the attack does come, that we are able to strike back, because if we were to completely reduce our nuclear armament to zero, if a nuclear attack would come, that would be like pulling our pants down and just being like, come on, get us. That's how it feels to the Belgian delegate. So please, I ask the Commission why they haven't said that they will keep a small percentage of the nuclear warheads just as a backup plan. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
And thank you, Belgium. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to this question? Sweden, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Well, the threat of nuclear weaponry is not only a global threat, but an existential threat to humanity, as well as for our civilizations. And may I remind the delegate that 191 countries have signed the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, meaning that there is overwhelming support in the world by militaries in most countries of the world to decrease the number of to decrease nuclear arsenals, as well as in the future, perhaps abolishing nuclear weapons as a whole. And 86 countries of 52 countries have ratified and 84 countries have signed the TPNW, the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Europe would just not be protected at all, and that supporting non-proliferation is something that is impossible. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you very much, Sweden. And Belgium, has your question been answered sufficiently?
No, thank you for the floor, Mr. President. That still does not answer my question sufficiently, though.
You may have a follow-up question.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The Belgian delegate still wonders, even though that the non-proliferation, the treaty is something very, very good, isn't it still smart to keep an ace up our sleeve when the enemy does decide to break that non-proliferation treaty? Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to this question? Ireland, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The delegate of Belgium mentioned before that the bomb after the Second World War, ending it, was a bomb that was good for the humanity because the peace came afterwards. But I want to remind that with Nagasaki and Hiroshima, 200,000 people died. And you really want to say that this is what we want. In this committee, we are defending a global peace and therefore a nuclear arms-free world. And for that, we don't only need some countries, I'm completely with you, but all countries. And for that, we have the whole resolution and not only one OC. Thank you for the word.
Thank you, Ireland. Are there any other questions regarding OC4? So this specific OC only. Hungary from Ample, you've been recognized.
Excuse me. I'm terribly sorry, Mr. President. My hand was up by mistake.
No problem. Are there any other questions regarding OC4 now? So this specific OC only. Latvia from Deve, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would like to outline the second subclause and third subclause of OC4 in order to pay attention to that. I would like to ask the intention behind this OC to the committee, as the hair trigger alert will basically say that you can't exactly retaliate, while the no first use pledge will basically say you can't attack, therefore completely nullifying the purpose of using nuclear weapons. Although I understand that, wouldn't it be just simply easier to just say, just don't use them at all, instead of just making kind of almost a paradoxical like follow-up subclause there? You know what I mean? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Sweden, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So this is concerning the countries that have actually signed the treaties, meaning that you can of course exit the treaties like North Korea has done, and the reason behind the removal of the hair trigger alert, so meaning that you can't fire in like 10 minutes, let's say, and the no first use pledge, meaning you can't, meaning you pledge not to fire first, means that countries that actually are in favor of non-proliferation and the gradual phasing out of nuclear weapons could pledge not to fire first, meaning that basically the incentive towards having the weapons even from the start would decrease. Let's keep in mind that there are still countries that have nuclear weapons and that haven't signed the treaties, but the countries that have signed them are the ones that we want to implement the first use pledge. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you very much, Sweden. Has your question been answered sufficiently? Latvia, I believe.
Almost, Presidency.
You may have one follow-up question.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So if I'm understand this correctly, quite brief. So the intent is to make Europe act in a sign of good faith, right? To be the first one to do this in the hopes that the others would follow. Am I understanding correctly? Oh, I yield the floor back. Apologies.
Thank you, Latvia. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Latvia, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, that's correct. We are encouraging Europe to take the first step in having a no nuclear weapons future.
We will now move on to another OC. Are there any other questions regarding the resolution of AFED? Serbia from Ample, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. The delegate of Serbia would like to ask the committee about the OC5, how exactly they would clarify the difference between peaceful and harmful usage of nuclear material, because that seems like a really, really difficult challenge. So I would like to know. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond to this question? Italy, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I want to say that we have encouraged an international pool of experts just to clarify this point that regards the article number 4 of the NPT that has a little gap of clarification under this point, and for some states it's very crucial. So we have a pool of experts that have to list and define the two differences. So if even if it's a challenge, we want to get it out. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, Italy. Serbia, has your question been answered sufficiently?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Yes, it has been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding OC5 and OC5 only? So this specific OC. Ireland from Troy, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President, because I was wondering if isn't any usage of such weapons harmful? So what do you think, which effect will this OC have? Because I think like every person that has the control over a nuclear weapon would know which effect it has. So what do you want to affect with this OC?
Thank you, Ireland. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? Malta, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So we were trying to distinguish the difference between power plants, nuclear power plants, and nuclear weaponry. So we're trying to distinguish that nuclear material can be either used in a positive way, which in a peaceful and positive way for the environment, or harmful when it comes to nuclear weapons and the destruction of humanity in reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Malta. Ireland, has your question been answered sufficiently?
Thank you for the floor. I couldn't understand the part where he said, the delegate said that, which was a peaceful way of using them. Could he please repeat that?
May I ask the delegate from Malta to repeat his answer?
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So we're trying to distinguish the difference between nuclear power plants, which are peaceful and obviously environmentally friendly, and on the other hand, which contradicts is the nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Thank you, Malta. Ireland, has your question been answered now?
Yes, thank you for the floor.
Thank you. We will move on to another OC now. Are there any other questions from the General Assembly concerning the resolution of Alfred? Sweden from Liebe, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. My question is regarding OC number 9, and I'm wondering what the reasoning is why it is incorporated in this resolution, since this clause does not encourage nuclear disarmament, and the sole purpose of the whole committee's work is to eliminate nuclear weapons and not prepare for a nuclear disaster. So why should it then be part of the resolution?
Thank you, Sweden. Whom from the committee may I ask to respond? United Kingdom, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So we specified a nuclear disaster because nuclear disaster could be a result of nuclear disarmament. Nuclear disarmament is a very complicated process, which could have nuclear spillages, and in the case of which Europe should have a protocol to be followed, and therefore I think it goes hand in hand with nuclear disarmament. Thank you, and I yield the floor back to Mr. President.
Thank you, United Kingdom. Sweden, has your question been answered sufficiently?
No, not really. Why then have?
You may have a follow-up question.
Why then have OC9 when you already have OC13, which answers your question? Thank you.
Sweden, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. So we have already addressed all of our ICs, and the reason we decided to include this is that it is an additive that could prepare Europe for the potential ramifications of what happens if we do not disarm. Now, we want to make it clear that the goal is to disarm. However, the rest of our OCs do actually support that, and there's nothing that says that this cannot be in the resolution. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you, Sweden. Are there any other questions regarding OC9 now? So only OC9. Slovakia from Deve, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. My question regarding this OC is, isn't it redundant if we already have similar protocols such as ECRI, EURDEP, and several articles in the Euratom Treaty? Isn't this something that we have already finished after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, and therefore shouldn't be included in the resolution?
Thank you. Ireland, you may answer this question.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. You talked of a case where there was a nuclear power plant that has had a problem, but we are talking about nuclear bombs, and this is not the same protocol that we can use here. So we need a European solution that shows up what to do when the bomb is in the air and afterwards landing and exploding. And for that, we need instructions for the population and also for the governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ireland. We now have time for one last open debate question. Serbia from Econ, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I would like to ask the sole purpose about operative clause number 13 as why it should be included as it doesn't concern your subject. So why did you include it? Thanks.
From the committee, may I ask to respond to this question? Italy, you can recognize.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Actually, the OC number 13 regards our topic because if you think about the fact that there are more than 1,000 nuclear weapons on the earth and maybe one of them can hit our grounds, our European grounds, it is necessary to have new technologies and plans to prevent this and also to rehabilitate the environment that will be destroyed by a thing like that. I have to remind you about the Fukushima. I don't think so. Thank you for the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, Italy. Serbia, has your question been answered sufficiently?
Yes, it has been. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concluded the open debate. Since the open debate has ended, whom from the General Assembly may I ask to deliver a speech against the resolution of AFET? Belgium from FEM, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and fellow others. I believe the committee did an excellent job on formulating this resolution on basis of the question. But regarding the question of a nuclear arms-free world, can we really achieve this? Can we put an invention in a box and just forget about it? The world has guns. If we just put them in a box, world peace would be achieved. But is this the case? No, it isn't. If we not having nuclear weapons means lowering our defense, and other continents could see us as a fragile continent. So I think we should work together on achieving peace, but not lowering our defense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Belgium. Whom of the committee may I ask to present a speech in favor of the resolution? So the closing speech. Poland, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable Presidency, distinguished guests, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. 226,000 people died when almost 76 years ago, the United States detonated a nuclear bomb with the lovely nickname Fat Man over the city of Nagasaki. And even though Nagasaki is habitable again, people are still dealing with the consequences. Tragic scenarios like this demonstrate the threat created by nuclear weapons, a threat to the very existence of humankind with their use presumably making Earth inhabitable and therefore being fatal for all. It's of the utmost importance to achieve a nuclear arms-free world. With the rising number of global conflicts that are just getting more and more tense by the second, it's safe to say the task at hand isn't getting easier. These are explosive times. We have to act now. The Committee on Security and Defense came up with an excellent solution. Our solutions are designed to be inclusive of all nations, not just European nations, but definitely with an obvious focus on the role of the EU in non-proliferation, acting as a role model and a mediator in multilateral negotiations, which are essential to achieve a nuclear arms-free world. I know it seems like a dream world, but if we try really hard, we can achieve it. these weapons of mass destruction are just unethical, because normal weapons used in war are used to fight battles. These weapons harm the citizens directly. Therefore, we encourage a step-by-step approach to disarm of all nuclear weapons around the world, not just Europe. And by disarming of nuclear weapons in a step-by-step way, every country remains with a certain sense of power. So no one loses their power and the other country has the ability to just attack them. I understand what the delegate from Belgium was trying to say, but our solutions simply solve these issues, and we solved what the delegate of Belgium criticized. The EU has the power to achieve these things. The EU has the power to achieve crucial change about nuclear weapons. We should do something, and we can do something. We simply just have to. And therefore, I urge you all to vote in favor of this resolution, because it truly solves some crucial points about a nuclear arms-free world. We could make Earth safer and eliminate the risk of destroying our planet with nuclear weapons. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Poland. We will now move on to the voting procedure. I will share the poll with you right now. I believe that everyone should have been able to vote by now. Were there any technical difficulties regarding the voting procedure? If so, please speak up now. I take this as a no. And may I ask Martin Lechner to share the Cps vote with us?
The Cps voted against this resolution as Haley, a smoking hot single bomb, would need to be defused.
Thank you very much. And with 58 votes in favor and 37 votes against and 14 abstentions and the disapproval of the CPs, this resolution has passed. Clapping is in order. We will now have a break until 4:45. Please unmute yourself and stop your video on Zoom.
Hello, everyone. I would kindly ask everybody to turn their cameras back on and to mute themselves so that we can start with the next resolution. Okay, then I would kindly ask President Philipp to pin the members of the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs.
If I may intervene, Madam President, I believe we have motivational speeches coming up.
You're right, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm sorry, I didn't have the program open next to me. Then my bad, I would like to ask Magdalena Offenbeck to deliver her speech for the General Assembly.
Thank you. Distinguished Presidency, Honorable CPs, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen. United in diversity, the motto of the European Union, and most certainly the spirit of this international session of the Model European Parliament. While the COVID pandemic has been causing divides all over Europe, we have been working together, building bridges and improving our beloved European Union. This virtual session sends a strong message. The message that together, as Europeans, we overcome challenges, and we do not get discouraged by difficulties that arise. I ask you to take this spirit with you throughout the General Assembly. We overcome problems and we find solutions together. We truly are united in diversity. Thank you, and I wish all of you the best of luck during this General Assembly.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Now may I ask Julius to deliver his speech for us.
Thank you, Fiona. Fellow Presidency, Excellencies, Honorable Delegates, Committee Presidents, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I was asked to deliver a motivational speech to the General Assembly, thinking to myself how I would further motivate you all. Young, diligent, and engaged people who spend their free time practicing what the EU is all about. Democracy, equality, as in respecting all other participants and their opinions, and obviously the rule of law. All you delegates are the embodiment of the European spirit, refusing to surrender when times get tough and overcoming the enormous hurdle of COVID by gathering online, to discussing fruitfully, making your voice heard, and obviously establishing lifelong friendships along the way. The future of the EU is reliant on people like you, who actively take part in discussion and ultimately decision-making. Therefore, I urge every single one of you to take part in the ongoing General Assembly. At first, this may seem intimidating, but let me tell you, every single participant, regardless whether that's an experienced delegate, CP, VP, or president, once raised their placard, or now virtual hand, for the first time. As soon as you break out of your comfort zone, you'll realize how great of an opportunity it is. I sincerely hope you all seize this opportunity today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, yes, clapping is in order. Thank you, presidents. Now, may I ask the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs to be pinned, please? I would like to remind the General Assembly of the updated version of the resolution booklet where any textual changes have been amended. And I'm now asking a member of the committee to read out the OCs of the resolution. Who may I ask to do that? The Austrian delegate, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Consider it necessary that the EU promotes education, research, and innovation, specifically in the Industry 4.0 field. In the Industry 4.0 field, leveling out the situation between all EU countries, candidate countries, and countries in the Schengen Agreement. Strongly advises, 1, every country in the EU to have a common fixed minimum percentage of 25% human workers, and 2, setting up the EIMDA, meaning the European International Monetary Distribution Agency, which guarantees the budget being spent by the member states on workers earning minimum wages will be 2.5% of their GDP. Encourages a larger sum of the member state GDP be devoted to creative and social intelligence learning, education and workshops, continuously adding to their skill set, thus lowering the risks of losing their jobs. Emphasizes the need for an EU-wide organization to help startups and scale-ups modernize and adapt their technology. Calls for further development of the Erasmus Plus organization, as well as encouragement of the youth in the countries which are lagging behind in the fourth industrial revolution. Strongly encourages non-Erasmus Plus EU member states to join in and exchange technological expertise. Encourages balanced competition by appointing an independent panel of experts who evaluate small and medium-sized businesses' eligibility for funding for the integration of 4.0 technology based on preset guidelines. Approves the funding of educational programs across the EU, candidate countries, and the countries in the Schengen Agreement to teach current and future employees how to work with AI, big data analysis, robotic tools, autonomous robots, and augmented reality systems, and so forth. Further recommends multimedia educational campaigns to inform citizens about the advantages and consequences of Industry 4.0. Proposes to regulate the educational system to better serve, proposes to regulate the educational system to better serve the future needs of the industry and further promote readily accessible technological programs to the public. Authorizes the establishment and funds the creation of educational institutions with the primary purpose of providing European employees with knowledge crucial for working in their respective positions. Approves of the creation of an EU-wide initiative to provide professional help with the integration of Industry 4.0 technologies in companies of all sizes. Strongly recommends firm restrictions, such as absolute security of citizens' private information, be set by the EU and implemented in member states, is to ensure equal development and range of authority across the whole EU, therefore ensuring the protection of human rights. And instructs the presidents to forward the resolution to the European Parliament, the European Commission, and the Council of Ministers.
Thank you. We are now moving on to factual questions. The presidency will allow a maximum of 5 factual questions. Are there any questions to the committee? The Romanian delegate from AFET-SEDE has been recognized.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. I have a question regarding OC number 3. What GDP stands for?
Who from the committee wants to answer this question? Are you raising your hand? Oh, the Austrian delegate, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. GDP stands for gross domestic product. It is the combined value of all goods provided and goods sold and services provided in a country over the span of an entire year.
Thank you. I think that answers the question. Next up, the Lithuanian delegate from.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Lithuania would like to ask the committee if they could provide an example of education, research, and innovation in Industry 4.0 field, as stated in Operative Clause 1, just for clarification. Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
Who from the committee wants to do this? Again, the Austrian delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. For example, education in the Industry 4.0 field, there's many specific schools. In Austria, an example would be the HTL, the Higher Technological Institute, which provides students with more in-depth knowledge of industry and Industry 4.0 and how to access it. And research into Industry 4.0, there are many initiatives currently and many independent companies currently working on Industry 4.0, and there are new inventions almost every day. And innovation, innovation and research, I've already just mentioned. There are many companies and states researching Industry 4.0.
Thank you. I think that serves as an example. Now a factual question from the delegate from Cyprus from the committee CULT.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. I would like to ask, what is the Schengen Agreement mentioned in clause 8? Thank you.
Who from the committee wants to answer? I encourage all the delegates from the committee to participate. The Serbian delegate, please, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. So we had a question about the Schengen Agreement, as I understood. The Schengen Agreement is a treaty that was signed on June the 14th in the 1985. And that's a treaty that led most of the European countries towards the abolishment of their national borders, to build a Europe without borders. So when you pass the borders in the European Union, you don't have to have your passport with you. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you. For the next factual question, we have the delegate from DEFE from the Netherlands, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. The Netherlands was wondering regarding OC1, what form of promotion the committee had in mind. Thank you.
I'm sorry, this is not a factual question. This is like a content-wise question, which we will allow in the open debate. Therefore, I will now recognize the, okay, it seems the delegate from the Netherlands. Never mind. Then I will ask the Polish delegate from DEFE to ask a factual question.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I was wondering in OC2 what the acronym EIMDA stands for.
I'm sorry, this is also not a factual question because it's in the footnote, which you can see if you scroll down. Thank you, Julius. It stands for the European International Monetary Distribution Agency. Okay, a factual question from Inter's Lithuanian delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I have a question about the OC number 2, and the presence mentioned that 2.5% of the GDP and 25% of the human workers. Where do those percentages come from, or are they just something that you came up with yourselves?
I'm sorry, this is also not a factual question. May I remind the General Assembly that factual questions only ask about definitions or examples for certain measures. This will be the last factual question I will allow, and I would ask the Irish delegate from AFET-SEDE.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. It is also about OC2, and I'd like to ask for a definition of a non-human worker.
Who from the committee wants to answer this question? The delegate from Cyprus, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
A non-human worker would be any type of industrial robot, quote unquote, for instance, that could actually replace the human. For instance, a vending machine replacing someone working behind a booth. But a coffee machine requires, for instance, a man or a woman to operate it. So that would not be a non-human worker. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the factual questions. The presidency has chosen an amendment from the Latvian delegate concerning OC 10. I believe the vice president will show it to us. Thank you. You can read it here. The amendment proposes to substitute clause number 10 with the clause that you can read on screen. May I ask the delegate who proposed this amendment to come forward and deliver their speech?
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. May I start?
Please do.
All right, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen of our great session, I would like to bring attention that this committee has generally made a very good resolution. And it's about a topic that's been very close to our hearts and is only growing more and more in power as of late, which is only more reason why we need to make sure that such a resolution, if it does pass, the actual people in Europe in charge to make sure that our future comes to better hands, we need to make sure that it's a solid proof. Now, if you pay attention to clause 10, the way in which it is worded is giving firms just a bit too much power, right? Because it's basically inferring the idea that these firms will be regulated, which is the key word which I personally find a lot of issue with, the education system, which in my opinion can lead to something similar to a technocracy, which is happening in the United States. When the Industrial Revolution was occurring and firms did have a hands-on education system, it kind of molded into something that would just keep producing more and more workers for themselves, only benefit them, while other industries would only end up being left out. My proposition is to instead reword the way that this clause is made, sorry, not clause, OC, in a way that can ensure that the firms don't get way too much power and that instead it is only slight guidance, and specifically in the high schools, which are in my country, for example, known as technical, which is when after grade 10, you choose a specific job career and you study that kind of profession for a few years and then you go straight into the field. That is all I'm asking, and otherwise I would ask all of you to support this general resolution. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. We will now allow a few questions from either the committee or General Assembly to the amendment that the Latvian delegate is going to answer. Who has a question concerning the amendment? Maybe if we could see it again on the screen, I think that might help.
Excuse me, but I think you have forgotten the opening speech for the delegation.
Yes, you are right. We will, I'm very sorry for that. We will do that now. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry once again. Whom from the committee may I ask to deliver the opening speech? German delegate, is it you? Okay, then you have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Esteemed presidents, distinguished guests, honorable delegates and committee presidents, dear participants of the Model European Parliament. Imagine a future where machines have replaced all human workers, a future in which artificial intelligence has gotten so out of hand that it now controls all of our lives. Although this might just seem like a rather uninspired dystopia or an overplayed sci-fi trope, this, in the near future, could become our reality. But why predict such a grim version of the future? We do so because right now, at this very moment, we find ourselves amidst a revolution. To put it more precisely, right now, the fourth industrial revolution is taking place. This means that we can observe a massive rise of combinations of cyber-physical systems, robotic tools and autonomous robots, big data analysis systems and artificial intelligences. While these interconnected systems between machines and computers can lead to highly intelligent, optimized factories, they pose one immense risk: the devaluation and eventual replacement of human labor. If machines can do the work better, faster, and even cheaper, why even hire human employees anymore? To illustrate this point, According to the McKinsey Global Institute, approximately 100 million employees will see significant changes to their jobs just until the year 2030. This is where the Employment Committee and our absolutely crucial resolution come into play. We ensure that all employees in the European Union are educated about all the important aspects of Industry 4.0 technology, its up and downsides, and most importantly, about how to work with such complex systems, thereby protecting workers from falling behind and losing their positions. Furthermore, through our 12 OC, we safeguard the data of all EU citizens by applying solid restrictions to the collection and storage of private information. In addition to that, in OC8, we create multimedia educational campaigns to educate citizens regarding the advantages and consequences of Industry 4.0. These measures are only a very small part of the crucial changes that our resolution contains. It is of absolute significance that we make these changes now. The world around us is changing faster than ever, and the pace of innovation is growing exponentially. If you care about preserving our future and ensuring that the economy of the European Union can continue to strive, I strongly advise that you vote in favor of our resolution. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, and I apologize once again for missing that on the agenda. Now, if we could please see the amendment once again. And if you have any questions regarding the amendment, please prepare to deliver them now. Who of the committee or of the General Assembly has a question to the Latvian delegate concerning his amendment? The Belgian delegate from the Ample Committee has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. The Belgian delegate would like to ask the Latvian delegate if he realizes that only letting high schools into this educational program is... Excuse me, my mom just entered. So, as I was saying, this is way too precise. Why should you say, let's just take out all of the universities who already now are striving towards a better future? In Belgium, for example, we have two great technical universities such as Ghent and Leuven. This is why we are the pinnacle of technology. So why would you take out such diverse and such specialized educational programs just for high schools? I don't see the point. So please, Latvia, enlighten me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate of Belgium. Would the Latvian delegate kindly want to answer?
I would love to, Madam President. So, in light of the comment of the delegate from Belgium, which I deeply appreciate, the main reason on which I decided to word the new clause as such is for the following reason. When we're talking about the educational system, almost all the time when you look at any resolutions made by the EU, we're talking about grade 1 through 12. We're not talking about universities. Universities are usually known as higher education, right? That's the main reason. The reason why it's usually the focus to grade, high school, so grade 9 to 12 or grade 10 to 12, depending on what country you're from, is due to the fact that beforehand, why would you want to train kids with any profession that early? That doesn't make sense. Would you want to teach a kid to be a welder in grade 8 or teach a kid to do AI in grade 8? Doesn't make sense. You can slowly progressive level that, sure. But my main focus of my amendment is to make sure that firms don't lead the education. As one of my delegates, if I may have a bit more time to explain real quick, one of my delegates brought up, there's a thing called correspondence theory, right? The idea is that the education system leads where the industries will go themselves. And if we have the other way around, that'll only make it so that the industries will only put their interests at the forefront and not instead the other way around, with education system would lead to innovation over and over and over. That is the main reason. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
Thank you. Just for time's sake, I would ask the General Assembly to keep both questions and answers to the amendment short. Another question regarding the amendment from the Call Committee Cyprus, please.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. I would like to ask, how would the programs be involved into high schools if they are state owned? since the Europe doesn't have jurisdiction over internal affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. The Latvian delegate has been recognized.
For Madam President, it's simple, and in a lot of schools this already exists. In Eastern Europe, we have a thing called like technical colleges, which is what this is. This exists, at least I know, in France and in the Netherlands, right? These are already existing things. All this does is only enforce it further on, and of course also gives the guidance directly from these firms. Whereas in your original clause, you're talking about them literally regulating that, which I think is a terrible idea. The main idea is slight guidance. That's all we can do to get ideas or perhaps just improvements on how we can improve the educational system. That's it. I just don't want to monopolize it. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. One last question from the Danish delegate from the Ample Committee.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Doesn't the Latvian delegate think that by writing this amendment, exactly doing that, monopolizing this area instead of broadening the clause out as we have written it, where it can be for all school levels and for both the schools, and we can have like industry visits, because we find that while we are not training kids in second grade to do a certain job, we are training them just like we are learning them to read and write. They need to learn how to work with this AI that will be a part of all of our futures. So doesn't the Latvian delegate think that his proposal is just monopolizing?
Okay, thank you. May I ask the Latvian delegate to deliver a short answer to that?
Thank you, Madam President. The answer is no, because once again, if ever we pay attention to the amendment, the word regulate, and so let me just read it. Regulate education system to better serve the future needs of the industry. That means the industry is the one in control and the one deciding what will be better for the educational system. My idea is just to move this to be advised by those industries, just to make technological programs more accessible and to make synergy. That's it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Now, whom from the committee may I ask to deliver a speech in response to the amendment? There can't be two, so one of you has to lower your hand. Is it the Belgian or the Serbian delegate?
It was supposed to be mine.
Okay, then if the
Yes.
Serbian delegate could please lower her hand, and the Belgian delegate has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the GA, let me be quite frank. Although that this amendment would have been great if it wouldn't have been so specific, and unfortunately makes such a great fuss about the word regulate. Let me be frank. We have never, ever thought about or even tried to monopolize Industry 4.0 to make sure that the industries who are now growing super exponentially and who are now in power will monopolize on that. That is just, excuse me for saying the word cynical, but that is it. It boils down to this. So let me be quite frank. We have thought about every single clause in our resolution. We have thought about every single word. We also have thought about the structure of our resolution. So if there would be something that we do not, as the commission, stand 100% say this is it, then it wouldn't have been in there. So I ask the GA, please do not listen to such, well, excuse me for saying it, but cynical words that we want to monopolize the EU economy by regulating the educational systems. This is merely about trying to promote and that the kids who are now in school, which by the way, 65% of the kids who are now entering primary school work in jobs that don't even exist today. And so we want to guide them to a better job and a better future. And this is why in clause 10, it shouldn't be about high school. It's about education in general. So I ask you, the GA, do not pass this amendment, as it is nothing more than just a mere amendment, which does not help the resolution. So do not pass. Thank you very much. Leonard Sleming, Belgian delegacy. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now have the voting procedure about the amendment. Please remember that only the delegates are allowed to vote. And you have 30 seconds to make your choice. Okay, could we please have the results about the voting procedure? Okay, with a tie on 50-50, this amendment will not pass. The resolution and the OC will remain as it stands. We are now moving on to the open debate. Who has a question for the committee? The Hungarian delegate from the FEM committee.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to ask the committee to elaborate on point 7 and more specifically what those preset guidelines would entail and how would they implement it. Thank you.
Who from the committee wants to answer this question? The German delegate has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. So the question was about OC7 and about the preset guidelines and about their actual implementation. So with OC7, our goal is to fund small and medium-sized businesses and prevent monopolies from big businesses who have a lot of budget to integrate Industry 4.0 technology. So this panel of experts has a look at the size and the own funding of these small and mid-sized businesses to evaluate if they are eligible for funding or if they can do on their own. And through these preset guidelines, we can prevent monopolies and also prevent small and mid-sized companies falling behind.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll have, are there any more questions regarding OC7? The Irish delegate from the INTA committee, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would very much like to know which criteria will be followed by evaluating small and medium businesses, and also whether the committee thinks that there is too much infringement by the state into the market economy if they subsidize small and medium-sized businesses just because they are small or medium.
I believe the first part of the question has been answered already, but who wants to answer to the Irish delegate from the committee? The Austrian delegate has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I want to highlight the word independent here. Of course, the committee will be paid by the state. It does not mean its decisions are going to be influenced in favor of the state. The experts will choose who they want to fund themselves and not the state. The state will not choose who to fund.
Thank you. I believe that's a sufficient answer. Are there any more questions regarding OC7? The delegate from Malta from the DEFE committee, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. May I ask the committee to clarify whether the government would be involved together with the independent experts in order to coordinate between the various SMEs in each and every member state? Thank you.
Who from the committee wishes to answer that question? The Bulgarian delegate has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. As we already stated in our last statement, the Austrian delegate made it very clear that the government would have no influence over this panel of experts. And the reason we wrote independent panel of experts is because they are going to independent and they are not going to vote in favor of the government or are not going to be influenced by the government. I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I will allow one more question to OC7, then we will move on.
If I may, Madam President, I think they misunderstood me.
Okay, please, you have been recognized. Please clarify.
Thank you. All right, so the government will not have influence upon the independent experts, but again, how will the independent experts ensure that they are coordinating in an efficient manner between the various SMEs in each and every member state? Would they have like some sort of a list derived from the government or the institutions, etc., etc.? Thank you.
Okay, who wants to answer that question now? The Danish delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. This would be a EU-wide panel that would ensure that there are not any national biases, and that will also be independent, make sure that there are no industry sector that is looked more well upon to get these fundings, and that there are no nations that are more likely to get the funding. So it'll be an EU-wide panel. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to another OC. Are there any questions to the committee regarding any other OC, which is not 7? The Polish delegate from Liebe, please.
Yeah, thank you for the floor, Madam President. I have a question regarding OC11. So what do you mean with institutes to provide European employees? Because for me, it sounds like the institutes that are in German berufsbildende Schulen, and they are so schools and institutes that propose or that prepare their students for a better a specific job or a specific job field, and such institutes are already existing. So I'm a little bit confused about the and fund the creation of. So maybe you can explain.
Who from the committee would like to answer that? The delegate from Cyprus.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. That is a valid point. And thing is to fund the creation in order to promote the further expansion of the educational institutes that provide European employees with the knowledge crucial for working in their respective positions in the Industry 4.0. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question regarding this OC. The Belgian delegate from Envy, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Flo, I'm sorry, it was about another OC. Thank you.
Okay. Who of the General Assembly has a question regarding this specific OC? The Latvian delegate from AFET-CETA, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I have a question regarding clause 2.1, with every company in the EU to have a common fixed minimum percentage of 25% human workers. Wouldn't you agree that imposing a minimum percentage of human workers would harm industries of mass production? Wouldn't it promote exploitation of human workers in mass production?
I'm sorry, which OC are you referring to?
OC 2.1.
Okay, who from the committee wants to answer the question? The Bulgarian delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Our committee is strongly dedicated to including the employees in our future, a future that is going to be digitalized and optimized. In this case, in our opening speech, we presented reasons why exactly employees' workplaces are going to be jeopardized, and in order to help them, we want to set a 25% percentage of a common fixed minimum workforce that every company in the EU should have. So we can avoid a world of joblessness and low productivity and inequality. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding OC2 and either subclause? The Irish delegate from AFET-CETA, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. If we look closely at that OC and at the 25%, and if we also look at industrial sewing machines, we see that they're doing the work of nearly 10 to 20 humans. And if there are 10 machines and nearly 5 people surveying them, is not the relation we have want in this OC. And we couldn't do it with hundreds of people sitting there and suing, because it wouldn't be as effective, and it would cost a lot of money for this company, and it wouldn't be sufficient to sustain this company anymore. So how do we want to do that with this percentage? It is often not working. Thank you.
Thank you. Who from the committee would like to respond? The French delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. What we meant in subclause 1 of the second OC is that we wanted to have, we would just take the equivalent of how much a worker can produce, a human worker can produce in 1 hour, and see how much a machine can produce in 1 hour. And then we would just say something like a machine can produce in 1 hour what 10 workers can produce in 1 hour. So a machine would count as 10 workers and not only one. I don't know if I made myself clear.
I think so. We will now move on to another OC. This concludes the debate on OC2. Who of the General Assembly has a question regarding any other OC that is not 2 or 7? I would like to ask all the delegates to have their name correct in Zoom. It should be your committee, then your country, and then your name. Meanwhile, I would ask the French delegate from Econ.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. About the OC6, I want to know, how does the Erasmus Plus program, an educational program for students, help to exchange technological expertise?
Who of the committee would like to respond? The Serbian delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. So as we all know, Erasmus program is well known, and it's EU student exchange program combining many different ways of learning in Europe to have the complete knowledge of every student. So our idea with Erasmus program to further development would be to include the technological knowledge on a higher level, so the students will be well prepared for the wave of industry which is coming. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you. Is there another question to OC6? The Spanish delegate from Alfetside.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. I was wondering, couldn't the
I'm sorry,
EU...
please address me correctly. It's Madam President.
Sorry, I'm really sorry. Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
No worries.
I was wondering, couldn't the EU as a union of countries indeed just exchange technological expertise without the need of joining Erasmus+? Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
Who from the committee would like to answer? The Danish delegate has been recognized.
President, in our committee, we believe that the more countries we can be to exchange knowledge, the better we will all be. And therefore, it would be lovely if as many countries could participate in this exchange of technological expertise.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the next OC. Who of the committee, who of the General Assembly, I'm sorry, has a question? The delegate of Malta from INTA.
Thank you. Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to ask a question regarding OC4, if I may. Now, it states that there is a need for an EU-wide organisation to help startups and scale-ups modernise and adapt their technology. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, there is the SME Europe organisation, which would already be able to execute such a task. So such an organisation that the committee recommends would almost be unnecessary. It would be far easier, I believe, if SME Europe were to receive either more funding and also an expanded policy, which would include the modernisation of small and medium businesses. Thank you very much.
From the committee, the delegate of
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. We are well aware that one of the biggest problems most startups are facing is to have the initial money required in order to modernize and adapt their technology to this exponentially increasing industry. And therefore, this is why, even though such an organization exists, we would like to emphasize the need for such an organization to be further promoted. Thank you.
I believe that answers the question. From the Econ Committee, the Serbian delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President, but it has been an accident. I was hoping to ask on another OC. Excuse me.
No worries, you'll get your chance later. Then I would ask the Hungarian delegate from the Codes Committee.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. I think if there is such an organization which deals with this issue and which put an emphasis on these startups, then why we need an EU-wide? So if there is such an organization, why do we need two of them to carry out these issues regarding startups and scale-ups? Thank you very much.
I believe this is a very similar question, so if we could have a very short answer from the committee, from the German delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. We, as the Employment Committee, believe that it is necessary to have different sorry, I'm looking for the word, to have different organizations to help startups and scale-ups, because right now in this massive rise of technology, there are many startups and many scale-ups, and it does not hurt to help the most of them and to have more organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate on OC4. Who of the General Assembly has a question regarding another OC that has not been mentioned thus far? From the committee, Defe, the Luxembourgish delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to inquire on OC 13. To what extent will human rights be guaranteed by imposing a restriction of the type mentioned in this operative clause? Thank you.
Who from the committee would like to answer this question? I strongly encourage the whole committee to participate. For now, we will have the Bulgarian delegate, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. May I ask the honorable delegate to repeat her question, because I wasn't able to hear it. I think it is because of technical difficulties, but I believe I would be able to answer it because this is a very strong point in our resolution. So if you may ask again.
Yes, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Of course I will. Regarding operative clause 13, to what extent will human rights be guaranteed by imposing a restriction of the type mentioned in the operative clause? Thank you.
You may answer now.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. This point in our resolution is dedicated to the privacy of all employees and all citizens. So because of the digitalization that our future world is going to face, we want to prevent that very, very personal information is going to be shown to the whole world, and that privacy, privacy is going to be, I'm sorry, is going to be served. So if I may add, food companies, fashion companies, all kinds of companies are going to have a digital site and a digital department, which means that all kinds of privileged information of clients are going to be saved somewhere. What we want to achieve is to give the citizens the privacy they deserve and that they should have by law. So we want to prevent any privileged information going into the world openly. Thank you.
Thank you. I will allow the debate on one more OC. So who of the General Assembly has a burning question on a
Madam
not yet
President?
discussed OC? Yes.
Apologies, but this does not satisfy my question because my question was on how the human rights will be protected, not anything with food companies or any sort of type of company.
Even if you interrupt me, which is fine, I guess, please address me in the correct way. I will allow a very, very short answer from the French delegate from the committee.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. What we meant about human rights we were protecting were the personal integrity and the right to privacy. And we believe that if we ensure that those rights are protected, that it won't be, cybersecurity won't be a problem anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate on OC 13. I will, as I said, allow one last question on another OC from the General Assembly. From the Intercommittee, the Netherlands delegate.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I'd like to bring attention to the OC 3. And in that OC, it stated that countries make available a large sum of their GDP. Could the screen maybe go up a little because... Yes, thank you. That member states make over a large sum of their GDP to be devoted to creative and social intelligence, learning, etc. And I would ask the committee if they are aware that not all of the member states are financially as wealthy or economically as well off as some member states are, and so that this cause would not be able for them to achieve. And I was wondering if they have thought about that and if the EU has some kind of fund for these countries. Thank you.
From the committee, the Hungarian delegate has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. The EU would obviously provide monetary fund to countries that are not very well off, as it does now as well. And with this sort of going into action, this would mean an additional additional support from the EU as well.
Thank you. This concludes the open debate on the Committee on Employment. Who from the General Assembly would like to deliver a speech against this resolution? The Bulgarian delegate from the FEM committee has been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I will appeal for you not to vote for the passing of that resolution for several reasons. First of all, I think that the passing of this resolution will absolutely lead to people losing their job due to the mandatory 25% of human workers. Let's bear in mind that right now the percentage of human workers stands at 100%, and thus lowering it, even though to the mandatory 25%, will actually lead to a lot of people losing their job. Second of all, this will lead to bankruptcy of the small companies that but won't have enough money to continue hiring human workers, nor will have enough resources to buy robot workers in the first place. So just because this resolution does not suggest anywhere funding of small and medium businesses, ignoring the unlimited budget of the EU. So I appeal for you not to vote for the passing of that resolution. Thank you for the given word.
Thank you. Now, who from the committee would like to deliver the closing speech?
Thank you for the floor, Madam President.
You have been recognized.
Yes, I will need just 1 second. Thank you. So, may I just ask for 1 second, because I have just lost my paper. All right.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm starting. Sorry.
Okay.
For the inconvenience. So, dear Presidency, honorable members of the Model European Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the given floor. I want to start my very short speech by drawing your attention to the big issues that our committee is trying to find solutions for. It is the fear of a world of unemployment, the fear of a world of low productivity and inequality that would eventually appear along with the fourth industrial revolution. The delegate of Bulgaria is trying to create arguments in order to destroy our very carefully thought out resolution. So first, I'm going to start with engaging and rebuttaling the arguments made by the delegation of Bulgaria. I'm going to present you my first reason why this argument is inadmissible, why it's unimportant, and why it's stated very incorrect, and why it's absolutely irrelevant to this context. What the statement was that the lead to people that this 25% will lead to people losing their jobs. Dear delegates and dear presidency, may I draw your attention to the fact that we are trying to save these people's jobs. So if, in our opening speech, as it was stated, people are going to lose their job. All people that have no digital skills are going to lose their job. So this 25% is far much better than nothing. So may I also consider that many jobs will be changed essentially and not lost. Some of them are going to get lost, but not all of them. So some of them are just going to be changed. And this also, I'm also going to lead your attention to the fact that we, the Committee of EMPL, that include 10 smart delegates and 2 perfectly trained CPs, have been trying to find a solution for the enormous problem that the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is bringing. And not only for the past day, but for the past 2 weeks, we have been stressing and researching. We don't believe in magic, we believe in actions. And that is why we have sat down and found the best possible solutions, which we have presented in our resolution. Statements from the delegation of Bulgaria that aren't backed with strong facts and knowledge are just trying to destroy our resolution and not bringing, they are not bringing constructive material. I may highlight that fact.
Please come to an end soon.
I am coming to an end. If we don't want to experience a world of unemployment and lagging economies, if you want to prepare for the digital economy, if we want to prepare our digital economy that inevitably is coming our way, then we need to act now and vote for our resolution. So thank you for the floor, Madam President. I believe I have no time left. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the voting procedure. You can either vote in favor or against the resolution, or you can abstain.
We seem to be having some technical difficulties regarding the voting procedure. You will be able to vote in about 30 seconds.
I'm sure it'll be fine soon. Now it should work. Please vote, everybody. First, may I ask the committee presidents for their evaluation? Yes, you have been recognized.
Thank you for the digital floor, milady. Due to the fact that the GDP of the Schengen area is decreasing with every replaced job and the presidents cannot keep up with learning to use Word and MS Teams, the CP panel of experts is against this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think now we're ready for the results of the voting procedure. With 57% against, 32% in favor, and 11% against this resolution, and 11% of abstentions, this resolution has not passed. Clapping is not in order. We will now move on to the Committee on Human Rights. We are now moving on to the Committee on Human Rights. May I ask the delegates of the DROI committee to raise their hands so we can pin them. Whom of the committee may I ask to read out the resolution? There can only be one. Lithuania, are you? Okay, Lithuania, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. The Model European Parliament. 1. Urges the member states to educate their experienced professional to work with unaccompanied minors to meet certain criteria of specific qualification to guarantee proper treatment of unaccompanied minors. 2. Endorses the necessity for in-depth assessments and background checking to validate the reliability of the professionals in question. 3. Endorses the need for structured policy which outlines the fair and equal dispersal of migrants, their relocation being dependent on the EU member states' ability to host both economically, socially, and geographically. 4. Requests for the EU Commission to conduct spontaneous investigations on the internal reception facilities and, according to the shortfalls which prevail, to pass legislation aimed at improvement in medical care, nourishment, and psychological counseling. 5. Calls upon the member states to dedicate special efforts to collect data on unaccompanied migrants, including but not limited to 1. Disaggregation of data on unaccompanied minor migrants by age and sex. 2. Transparency in data storage and information sharing in order to foster border collaboration as well as collaboration on EU-wide level. 3. Making use of collected data on policy iterations to better address the specific needs of unaccompanied migrant minors. 4. Dedicating specific attention to include the cases of unaccompanied minor migrants going missing in data collection efforts. 5. Utilizing the collected data in process of family tracing. 6. encourages the monetary funding of non-governmental agencies by the EU in order to foster their involvement in the EU member states, leading to greater opportunity for the organizations to help stateless minors, including but not limited to cases regarding basic necessities, safety and protection, education, and work. 7, calls upon the European Commission to create unified standards for requisite response to minor migrants coming to member states, such as but not limited to 1, minimum requirements for the capacity of specialized reception facilities in the member states according to each state's resources and capability and overall occupancy of minor migrants. 3, minimum standards of services provided in reception families and refugee camps. 4, appoint of a legal guardian to unaccompanied minors without unnecessary delay. 8, proposes EU politicians to work in closer proximity with organizations such as but not limited to UNICEF, IMO, UN Refugee Agency, Save the Children, etc., in order to sufficiently address issues related to stateless and/or unaccompanied minors. 9, suggests the employment of certain number of psychological counselors to support the stateless minors in need. 1, urges each member state to set up the program Education for All that ensures basic education, such as but not limited to the language of the country of arrival due to unaccompanied minors, by creating classes to take that in consideration, the capability, maturity, and the age of each child. 2, helps the kids entering adulthood understanding laws and bureaucracy. 3, also allocates a fund to support the program that distributes money equally based on the number of minor refugees hosted by the country. 10, declares accordingly the need for non-invasive and tolerant social, economic, and cultural integration through non-formal, informal, and standard education incentives. 11, confirms the creation of awareness campaigns in order to encourage acceptance of refugees in public opinion. 12, stresses the importance of the correct use of non-intrusive unified methods of age assessment to unaccompanied arriving migrants. 13, instruct this president to forward this resolution to the European Parliament, the European Commission, and the Council of Ministers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whom of the committee may I ask to deliver the opening speech?
I am sorry to interrupt. May I have the floor, Madam President?
Yes, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President, but I am irrelevant to the DROI committee, so may I be unpinned, please?
Philip, could you please take care of that?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whom of the committee may I ask to deliver the opening speech? Malta, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Dear Presidency, Excellencies, members of the Model European Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As the Maltese delegate, it is an honor to be delivering the opening speech on behalf of the DROI Committee. Before I begin, I would like to praise the meticulous organization and coordination of this year's 53rd International Session of the Model European Parliament, the benefits of which have since been reaped despite the limitation of holding meetings online. Participants, both from within and outside my committee, were extremely helpful, and I am looking forward to forming more MEP friendships and learn further about various issues, even from other committees here today. The Subcommittee on Human Rights wish to transmit that the essence of this resolution is based on improving the quality of the EU's treatment towards unaccompanied migrant children and youth, whilst also bearing in mind their fundamental rights. Our resolution highlights the importance of all of the attributes of society and takes into consideration all the member states here today, further emphasizing how inclusive our resolution is. Our OCs stress the vitality of providing fair and just solutions towards mitigating our issue at hand, the question of unaccompanied stateless migrant children and teenagers. Our resolution really does accentuate the significance of providing these vulnerable individuals with proper and just treatment and catering to the needs, furthering implemented schemes to strive for more humane and effective migration. Migration will not go away, it will stay with us, as I quote from the European Commission itself. Children and youth migrating have become a recognized part of today's global and mixed migration flows. Nevertheless, in research and policy debates, the migration of children and youth is considered to be a new area of concern and focus. Policy responses to support these unaccompanied migrant children appear as fragmented and inconsistent, and the lack of subject-specific expertise is a persisting problem. Immigration is not a one-nation problem. The Maltese delegate encourages that now, more than ever before—
Please come to an end.
Thank you. We unite and collaborate to help mitigate this concern. And on behalf of the DRI committee, I wholeheartedly want to thank each and every one of you present today. And it is with great honor to share a well-thought resolution with you. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. I will now allow a few short factual questions. Please remember to always state the OC you are referring to. The Hungarian delegate from FEM, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to ask a factual question about OC number 2. More specifically, what if the DROA committee could elaborate on what non-intrusive unified methods of age assessments would be and how do they define that? Thank you.
Excuse me, what OC are you referring to? OC number 2?
OC number 12.
Oh, number 12. Okay, thank you very much. Whom of the committee may I ask to answer? Latvia, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe this is a textual inquiry. Thank you.
That's interesting. Thank you very much. But I'm the one who decides whether it's a factual question or an open debate question. So maybe could someone provide an example of a non-intrusive, ununified method? Luxembourg, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. So a non-intrusive and unified method of age assessment is basically we have to know the age of the minor. So we have to get to know what exact age they are. And the non-intrusive and unified methods are that we would do a method that is used in the whole EU. And the non-intrusive is that it is used by professionals who are trained to do it so that the minor doesn't get any physical or psychological damage from it.
Thank you very much. France, from CULT, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. My question is about a different OC. Is that okay?
Yes, just state the OC you're referring to.
I believe it was OC number 8. I would like to know what the acronym IOM stands for. Thank you.
Ireland, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Yeah, it is the International Organization of Migration, which also includes relief programs difference. Yeah.
Thank you. Other factual questions. Belgium, from the Econ Committee, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Belgium was wondering if in the OP10, the committee could explain the difference between non-formal and informal education.
Malta, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Non-formal learning takes place outside formal learning environments, but within some kind of organizational framework, whereby, on the other hand, informal learning takes place outside schools and colleges and arises from the learner's involvement in activities that are not undertaken with a learning purpose in mind. I hope that satisfies the delegate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will allow one more factual question. Lithuania from Afet Sede, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. In the OC8, could you please define an EU politician? Thank you.
Whom of the committee may I ask to answer his question? Poland, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. An EU politician is a politician working in one of the constitutions of the European Union.
Thank you. We will now move on to the amendment. There's been an amendment submitted by the Slovakian delegate from DEVE concerning clause number 3, and it's a proposal to substitute the clause by a new clause which reads as follows: endorses additional financing to the countries most affected by the immigration crisis, focused on, but not limited to, 1, lowering the financial burden of said countries, 2, supporting the asylum seekers' health and well-being. Please deliver your speech, Slovakia from DEVE.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Honorable delegates, the Honorable Presidency, distinguished delegates. When will we learn that our duties and mandates forbid us to do certain things? The attacked clause is as if taken directly from 2015 and the disasters that followed. The increase in sectarianism and the rise of populism, most vividly displayed by the spectacle we call Brexit, were a direct consequence of such actions. Anywhere you look, not only the Visegrad countries, but also Sweden, France, and the Netherlands, polls consistently show the opposition to such measures. So do we want to repeat the same mistake? Do we want to disobey the very citizenry that gives us our mandate and lets us decide on their behalf? I think, I think, fellow delegates, you know the answer to that question. But what about solidarity? Isn't Europe supposed to be the place of cooperation and inclusion? Well, it is. That's why I see a better alternative. An alternative, fellow delegates, that substitutes every government and helps resolve this issue. It satisfies everybody. Helping on the spot will not only make the crisis for the affected countries easier, but also supports the safety and security of the migrants in the most effective way possible. I invite you, fellow delegates,
please come to an end,
to share on this action of solidarity and fulfilling of your democratic duty.
Thank you very much. Because we're short of time, I will allow no questions on the amendment, and we will move on to the speech against the amendment. Whom of the committee may I ask to deliver that speech? Slovakia, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President, Their Excellencies, fellow delegates, distinguished guests. The DROI Committee has always focused on making sure that human rights are protected and promoted all across the EU, which is also the main goal of our resolution. Our committee also believes that this should be the main goal of all the attendants of the GA. However, the means and suggestions on the best ways to do so may differ. As a committee, we had a lot of discussion on which ways are the best to do so, not always completely agreeing. And with the benefit of hindsight, the committee sees the potential of our resolution to be even further improved. We therefore agree with the delegate that with the amendment he proposes, because we believe that we should promote really the human rights of those children and not cause further dispute and disagreement among the EU countries. So, dear delegates, if you're interested in making our resolution stronger and truly addressing the problem of human rights of unaccompanied minor migrants, we hereby ask you to vote in favor of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the voting procedure. Remember, there are no abstentions. Please, all delegates vote now.
I think that everyone has voted now.
Yes, I think we're ready for results. With 77% in favor and 23 against the amendment, this amendment passes. Now we're moving on to the open debate. Who moved the General Assembly, may I ask, to pose a question regarding a new OC? The German delegate from Envy, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to ask a question regarding OC2, and I want to know how is it possible to quote, validate the reliability of the professionals in question when the countries these migrants are coming from are destroyed and battling war?
Malta, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. We would like to clarify that the background checkings and the validating of the reliability of the professionals in question is actually referring to the professionals who are aiding the migrants in question and not the migrants themselves. I hope that clarifies. Thank you for the word.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this OC number 2? Luxembourg from Inter, please.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. I meant to ask what exactly was meant by reliability of professionals in OC2. Thank you.
Latvia, you've been recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to clarify that reliability in this case means background checks of their past experiences with migrants, if they have a criminal record, for an instance, or if they've been involved in illegal activity. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I will allow one final question regarding this OC. Cyprus cult, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. But I would like to ask if the background checks would be done before entering an EU country or after. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ireland, you've been recognized.
Yeah, I actually thank you for the floor, Madam President. I actually don't really understand the question because the professionals aren't from not from the EU, so they are not entering the EU. It's like migrants coming to the EU need professionals to handle them, and those professionals will have background checks. Will have background checks before working with those migrant children. If that answers the question.
Thank you. Would the delegate who was asking the question like to rephrase or elaborate on their point and have a follow-up question, or has the question been answered?
I misunderstood the OC. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. We will now be moving on to another OC. The Serbian delegate from Econ, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the recognition, Madam President. I would like to ask about OC number 8 regarding this proposal of EU politicians to work in closer proximity with organizations such as etc. How could you propose politicians to work closer? Can someone explain me what does what this actually means? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whom of the committee may I ask to answer the question? I strongly encourage all delegates to participate in the General Assembly. United Kingdom, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. What we mean by this is by working with other organizations, we would be able to get more detail and more accurate and more of a in-depth assessment on what's occurring within migration than what we would without working with external organizations, if that answers your question.
Serbia, you may have a follow-up.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President, but I don't have a follow-up to this. Partially answered my question, but I don't think that I will get a better answer, so no follow-up. Thanks.
Okay, we will be moving on to another question regarding this OC number 8 now. The Irish delegate from Inter, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to ask what the committee hopes from the proximity and the closer together working, and also if the committee really only wants to shift the responsibility for solving the issues of unaccompanied minors to these even bigger and broader organizations.
Netherlands, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I would like to clarify that the fact that the EU politicians work closer together with these organizations would lead to the fact that these politicians who have to make like big choices on handling the migrant issues and how to help them, they should know what their situation is like, and they should experience the things and see what the migrants, these unaccompanied migrants experience, so that they know how to react on their on their lives, and how they could help them in the best possible way. I hope that clarifies your question.
Thank you. Please remember to keep your answers short. We will now move on to another OC. The Austrian delegate from Econ, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I'd like to move to OC number 5. In this case, it would be because of, I don't see how one could collect data on unaccompanied minor migrants from, say, war-torn countries. How would one do that? I'd like to ask the Honourable Committee.
Members of the committee.
I strongly encourage all the members of the Committee on Human Rights to participate in the debate and in answering the questions. The Slovakian delegate from the committee, please answer the question.
Thank you for the word, Madam President. So this OC is basically meant to somehow coordinate the efforts on data collection in the actual member states to which those migrant children come into, and it's not meant to collect data on the children from the states of origin, but instead it encourages the states to somehow collect the data, because currently the data is missing and there is literally no data on how many minor migrants are there in those countries. So we cannot really address the problem because we don't have the data. So this OC is meant to focus on data collection on the children coming to the member states. Hope it clarifies the question.
Thank you very much. We will now be moving on to our last OC. The Belgian delegate from FEM, please.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. My issue is regarding OC 11. Can we really suppress can we really put our opinion on the public's opinion? Can we really change that? Because the formulation of 11 doesn't really seem correct to me. Although creating awareness campaigns could be a solution. However, I don't find suppressing someone's opinion or changing it into a personal opinion would be a good formulation.
Okay, thank you. The Swedish delegate, I'm sorry. The Maltese delegate, please answer the question.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. This OC was especially formulated not to suppress the opinion of the public. However, it is in fact to create awareness campaigns in order to encourage the acceptance of refugees in the public opinion. The integration of refugees is a point that we've harped on extensively within our resolution. Integration through educational schemes, and also, as many member states are aware, there are societies which are not as tolerant and accepting to people of such vulnerable nature, and therefore by creating several awareness campaigns which gives proper insight to the tough and harsh reality and hardships which these migrants and these unaccompanied children have to endure, will only help develop sympathy, empathy, and feelings and positive feelings within the public opinion. Thank you, and hope that answer is satisfactory. Thank you for the word.
We will now move on to the speech against the resolution. May I ask the delegate from Luxembourg from the Intercommittee to deliver their speech?
Thank you for the word, Madam President. Honourable Presidency, fellow delegates, dear guests. I would like to acknowledge the hard work the committee has put into this resolution, and I strongly agree that rapid changes in the very near future are essential, even vital. Though we need to focus on the actual problem. The lack of willingness to act upon the inhuman situation of unaccompanied minor immigrants in our European Union. It is a fact that most of the solutions the committee mentioned are already existing. The only thing this resolution would achieve is reinforcing programs and strategies that have already been proven inefficient in the past. Hence, this resolution does not contribute to adequately helping these children in need. Alongside this, I also want to point out that the EU is currently outsourcing its problems. For example, in the Libyan Coast Guard is being supported financially. Unfortunately, these guys gathered by the EU do not have any qualifications whatsoever. They are no state officials, but they do have military-grade equipment paid for by the European Union. This resolution does not address the EU's problematic collaboration with the Frontex either, whose main purpose is arresting illegal refugees and throwing them back into the other side of the border. Therefore, I believe investing in new solutions is a crucial step into changing this frightful situation. This resolution does not cover the entirety of the problem. It lacks concrete, novel solution, and does not seem to help the conditions of these children at all. They are in need of proper care, a home, a place they can feel safe and happy, none of which can be guaranteed by this resolution. Therefore, Honourable Assembly, I urge you to vote against this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whom of the committee may I ask to deliver the closing speech? Sweden, you've been recognized.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. Honorable Presidency, Excellencies, distinguished guests, member delegates. I would like to start by telling you a story. A story about a 15-year-old boy whose name is Ahmad. Ahmad has fled from his country because he's no longer safe there. Ahmad is all alone without his family. Ahmad sleeps at night, constantly worrying about whether he will be alive tomorrow or not. One morning, he wakes up by the sound of a fight. He goes out from the overcrowded facility where he sleeps and sees some boys abusing another boy. It feels wrong for him not to do anything, so he walks over there as an attempt to help. But when Ahmad is within reach, he gets stabbed. In the evening, Ahmad passed away. Ahmad is no longer with us. Ahmad's unfair destiny is a result of a non-working migration policy. A migration policy that does not ensure the fundamental rights of every child. Therefore, we have formulated a resolution that will improve the migration policy within the European Union, focusing on unaccompanied migrant children. Our resolution proposes solutions that will secure a fair and reasonable distribution of refugees, adequate facilities, and an effective way of collecting data to improve the collaboration between member states. These solutions will together assure the fundamental rights of stateless unaccompanied migrant children. When we are talking about children's fundamental rights, we need to put
Please come to an end.
aside. We need to act in solidarity. These children also have the right to a future, a right to dream, to become tomorrow's world leaders, just as you and just as me. The only way to ensure that unaccompanied migrant children have a family, have a future, and have a life is by cooperation. Cooperation, which the European Union is all about. Thank you. I yield the floor back to the presidency.
Thank you for the floor. Thank you very much. We will now be moving on to the voting procedure. We will be voting on the whole resolution. You should all be able to vote now. May I ask the Cps to present their votes or their opinion?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for
Presidency.
Yeah. Thank you for offering me the ground, Ms. Lumberjack. Concerned by the multiple constitutions of the EU's view on collecting underage migrant data, the EU politicians may fear being reliability checked and proceeded migrating for cheaper labor. This committee does not have the approval of the cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're ready for the results now. With 51% in favor, 37 against, and 12% of abstentions, this resolution passes. Clapping is in order. We will now have a dinner break and resume with our cultural evening, The Sound of Europe, at 7:30 sharp on Zoom. Thank you very much.
The meeting will be closed now.